Well, hey, y'all. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Saxophone Factory. Well, this is my car, actually. But you are on the Saxophone Factory channel. I don't record many videos outside of the studio because I like for people to get used to, what the studio looks like, and that way they can be sure that they're on the correct channel. But this is one of those videos that it's been, I've been thinking about the past few days. I did a video the other day. Are you too old to start learning to play the saxophone? Well, no, you're not too old. If you can breathe and you can move, and you're not too old. Can you be too young to start the saxophone? Yes. The saxophone is not for infants. The saxophone is not for, in its normal configuration, is not for toddlers. And I'll tell you why. And again, this is all my opinion and my experience. Now, there are teachers who will tell you, start as soon as possible. Start as soon as possible. Well, let's talk about this. And I know there are parents out there who want to get their kids started playing an instrument or the saxophone as quickly as they possibly can. But it's mostly because they like it, which is not the best reason, which is one of the worst reasons, actually. But that's another video. Now, what's required to play the saxophone is, first of all, the ability to hold the saxophone correctly. Without that ability to hold the instrument correctly, a lot of really bad habits are likely to develop, and combined with the inability to produce a proper tone, which makes the saxophone not much fun to play or listen to, frankly. What I have found is that it is better to wait until the student has control, or at least some developing fine motor movement, because you're going to need that. And you're going to have to be able to coordinate fingers on both hands in a way that requires a little bit more developed fine motor movement. For instance, an alto saxophone weighs about 14 pounds. I want people to realize that. A lot of people don't realize that they weigh that much. They weigh about 14 pounds, which isn't terribly heavy. But when you have that weight wrapped around your back or wrapped around your neck, depending on the kind of strap or brace that you're wearing, it's a lot more difficult to handle and maneuver and have the fine motor movement than people think. So a child that's too young just hasn't developed the fine motor skills yet. Because while that's happening with your fingers, you got to hold your mouth right. I know. I don't think any of it by itself is terribly difficult, but it gets complicated when you have to put it all together. I like to start kids when they're starting to learn to read as well, but after they've learned to read some, for sure. That is, well, when that happens, you have a child that's a little younger. I mean, excuse me, a little older for sure. But it is important that they have a maturity about them. I'm not asking them to, be able to drive a car and have a family. I fly an airplane. I'm not, but it is important that they are old enough to be able to take direction. I'm going to tell you straight up front, I am not a good teacher of the 5-year-old. I am not. There are people who are blessed with being able to teach super young kids who are 4 and 5. I am not that person. I am not. I'm just not good at it. I am better with adults and high school students, I think. If someone asked me, if you would ask me, who am I better with? I think that I'm better with high school kids and adults. Middle school kids, yeah, but you got to be pretty mature. Elementary kids, hardly, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not that I don't like elementary kids, because I do. They're cute. They're just adorable. Adorable. But as far as developing a pedagogy to help them along their journey, there are people who are better suited than I am. How about that? How about that? It is important, though, that all these things work together so to make sure that the student isn't frustrated. And that's the thing that I really worry about most. I don't want the student to be so frustrated that they end up hating it and not coming back to it when they're older. I want them to like playing the saxophone or the flute or the clarinet or the piano or the violin. I want them to like it. I really do. And if they struggle because, first of all, they're too young and they can't hold the full thing, and they fail at it in their minds, they may end up hating lessons and maybe end up hating playing the instrument and not come back to it, and that would be a shame. Because sometimes, when that happens, it's a shame because they could have been really good at it had parents waited and oftentimes follow the direction of the teacher. When teachers say, I think that, maybe your daughter or your son needs to wait a year. Let me tell you a quick story. When I started teaching where I'm teaching now, we were at another location, and a woman came in with a kid who was, I think it was an infant, but he was 1 and a little. And the teacher and the woman went back to the lesson room. It was a piano lesson. And my thought was, okay, so the lady has a piano lesson and she's got her kid and nobody to watch the kid, so they're going to bring the kid, and the kid's going to, and they're going to do the best they can, and that's how, and I thought, well, that's really cool. Good for mom. Mom's getting her piano in. Well, it was interesting. At the end of the lesson, the teacher, the lady, and the baby came out of the lesson room, and the lady and the baby left. And it was a new student. And I asked the piano teacher, well, how was she? Thinking that I was talking about the adult. And the teacher looked at me, and her eyes were just sort of glazed over, and said, the lesson wasn't for the adult. The lesson was for the kid. And I was like, well, how old was the kid? And she said 18 months. Yeah. That's probably the most extreme case I've seen, in my career. 18 months. And apparently, the lady said the kid showed some interest because they were, always banging on the piano that they had at their house. So they figured they'd get lessons for them. Let the child bang on the piano. They're 18 months old. They can't read. They take limited instruction. There's nothing for the 18-month-old in a traditional music lesson. No, there isn't anything. All I could think of was, thank God they didn't want to play the saxophone or the clarinet. Flute and clarinet and saxophone have physical restrictions. Physical restrictions. Your arms have to be long enough, especially on clarinet, they have to be long enough to reach down and hold the instrument and cover holes, which requires another level of fine motor movement, control over your fingers, being able to coordinate fingers, fine motor movement, the strength and the ability to coordinate your fingers, coordinate. That's very, very important. So, is there a possibility that you could be too young? Yes. 18 months is too young. 18 months is too young to play the saxophone. And from then on, yes, it depends very much on the child. How athletic are they? How mature they are? When I say athletic, I mean having fine motor control and being strong enough to hold the instrument. That's what I mean by athletic, not how fast they run or how much energy they have, because they all have unbounding energy. That's not it. And there may be better instruments to start on for all sorts of reasons. Not for an 18-month-old, but for maybe a 4-year-old, because they make these instruments in their sizes so they can do what? So they can hold them. Violin is a fantastic first instrument because they make them in their size. Now, they still have to be able to manipulate their fingers in a way, if they have making sure they have some fine motor skills, right? Now, piano, there's your thing. The piano does not move. Although there are fine motor movements involved, they are not nearly as crucial at the beginning stages as maybe, again, saxophone, flute, or clarinet, or even violin. So if you have a mature enough student, and I'm talking about mature enough to pay attention and follow directions and that kind of thing, piano, I think, for a lot of reasons, makes the best instrument for a young person to start on. Again, all my opinion. Some of you will say, I started playing the saxophone at 2 years old. I think you're wrong. Okay. Alrighty then. I'll send all my 18-month students to you. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until we see you again, keep playing.